let's step back and look at our bond price table. In this case, if you'll recall, we're looking at a 20-year bond, so it has 20 years to maturity. It's paying a 10% coupon rate, or $100 each period in interest, and it's got a par value of $1,000, so that when the market is requiring a 10% return, it pays the market price then is $1,000. In other words, it's priced at par. As interest rates fall, the bond price goes up. As interest rates go up, the bond price falls. Notice here there's a fairly wide variation between the value of this bond at 2% interest versus at 25% market interest rate. So it's worth 4 times as much, almost 6 times as much if market interest rates are only 2%. I want you to notice here in particular 2 values. The market price of the bond when interest rates are 8% is $1,196. When market interest rates are 12%, the value drops to $850. We'll come back and use that here shortly. We've noticed that there's a very wide range of bond values here, and it turns out that part of the reason for that is because this bond matures in 20 years. The time to maturity, in other words, the number of periods, the number of years until maturity, influences how much changes in the yield to maturity have an impact on the valuation. So the longer the maturity of the bond, the greater the price changes are going to be when there's a change in the yield to maturity. So let's take a look at in Table 10.2, we're going to look at bonds that have various different yields to maturity. So to start with, though, I want us to observe one of these is being priced. In one instance, we're being priced at 8% yield to maturity, and the other at 12%. And earlier, we looked at in Table 10.1 a bond with 20 years to maturity. In each case, these are bonds yielding making a payment of 10% per year. It's a 10% bond, and we are back with that 1,196 and that 850. So when this particular bond, this 20-year bond, is yielding 8%, it's priced at 1196. When the bond is priced at a 12% yield to maturity, it's only priced at $850. That's what we've seen earlier. So that was the bond we were looking at. Compare that to a bond, we change colors here, that only has 1 year to maturity. And what you'll see is when interest rates change, when interest rates go up, the bond price still falls, but not by as much. There's only about a $36 difference in the value of the bond when interest rates go from 8% to 12%. So this has a change of, and this is just an approximation, about $36. This one has a change. This long-lived bond, 20-year bond, has a change of, what is that, almost $350. Okay, so a huge difference. Notice that for a 30-year bond, the very last bond at the bottom, the change is even bigger. So the whole point is when there's a long time until maturity, interest rate changes have a big impact on the price of the bond. The bond price is going to change a lot when the bond has a long life. When the bond has a very short life, changes in interest rates aren't going to cause much of a change in the value. That's the reason why if you have a savings account and you can take it out at any time you want to, take your money out any time you want to, you don't look in the paper every day to check what the interest rates are on your savings account, because the value of your savings account basically is unchanged. It's the same as it was yesterday. It may have earned a small amount of interest, but the value of a bond that you can't cash in for 30 years, small changes in interest rates have a big impact on your wealth level, because that bond's price is going to change very dramatically from period to period as a result of just small changes in the interest rate. Here we have a graphical depiction of the change in bond price as a function of the number of years until maturity. So along the bottom of this graph, we have the number of years, and along the left-hand side, we have the bond price. If a bond is yielding 8% to maturity, it's going to, and that we're talking now about a bond that has a 10% coupon rate, with a $1,000 bond. Okay, if it yields 8%, well, interest rates have gone down, therefore the price must be higher than par. So we're looking at that blue line along the top. But the bond that has a long time until maturity, 30 years until maturity, is going to be priced at the biggest premium. That premium begins to go away. We refer to that as a premium when a bond is selling for more than its face amount. That premium begins to go away until at time zero, meaning when there's no time left at all until maturity, even though the market's requiring 8% and the bond's paying 10%, at that moment in time, the value of the bond is going to go right back to the par value. If interest rates are high relative to the price and the bond trades at a discount, now we're along this red curve right here. Okay, all of the bond is going to be priced at a discount. The longer the time until maturity, the bigger the discount. As we approach maturity, when we get close to time zero, the discount's going to disappear, and that just shows our relationship between time to maturity and the bond price.